Hi Harsh, thank you for taking out time for us, and I'm really glad that we are going to talk about your book, which is A to B, Adversity to Breakthrough. So, hi.
Hello, thanks for having me.
All right, so let's talk about it from the very start. That what made you think that, or what prompted you to actually become a writer? Because
So you're moving right to the secrets.
yeah.
Right. Okay. I it sounds very cliche to say that I always wanted to be a writer. I think everyone says that.
Right.
I always wanted to be a writer because I used to read a lot of books since I was a kid. Then I chose to study literature despite nobody in my family having ever done it. And I went to England to study further. I had no idea why I was doing it. One of my tutors asked me, "Why the hell are you studying literature? What do you want to do in life?" I had no idea. So somebody suggested that if you want to be a writer, why don't just write? So I wanted to be a writer for a long time, but I wasn't writing.
Okay.
This applies to a lot of people. So I started writing, and I used to write in English and obviously in Hindi because it's my mother tongue. And Toni Morrison says, one of the greatest fiction authors, that if there is a book you want to read and it hasn't been written, then you should write it. So this was the book that I wanted to read, and I decided to write it. It was actually written in very quick time, but it took a long time to publish.
Yeah.
But I think thanks to HarperCollins, it has come out very well. It's doing very well. It's a lot of things put into very few pages.
Okay.
So writing is something that I don't do. It exists within me and it manifests itself in different forms. Books, videos, blogs, podcasts,
Right.
even music. So I express myself into different forms, and writing is just one of the manifestations of that creative energy.
Wonderful. So can I say that that this book also has instances drawn from your life or something which you have seen or been a part of? Is it like that, or is it like some story, or perhaps your perhaps a figment of your imagination that you have just thought about and written about it, or like many other people or many other authors who say that this is a part of my life which I have written down and brought into the world?
Yeah, this is an interesting book because it started off with the question that if you are in a black hole in your life,
Right.
you're stuck and you have nowhere to go. You are a young man, young woman, an entrepreneur trying to establish himself, herself, or an established person stuck in his life, the midlife crisis. Anyone who's stuck in an unformidable situation where you think you cannot get out. I call that phase the adversity, the place of adversity, the shithole. Everyone has experienced it, and we do it. I was in one of those holes back in 2006 and 7, and I had to figure out a way to come out of it. Right? So I figured out that no amount of external help, be it people, be it resources, be it advice, no amount of external help can drag you out of there. Right? So you are in the shithole alone. So what is the only thing that can take you out of adversity and towards breakthroughs?
Right.
That one thing is your inner story. What do you tell yourself? So when you're constantly telling yourself that I'm in the shithole, I'm stuck, there is nothing I can do, and that the life is not going anywhere, this is what will happen. Right? It's like a self-proclaimed prophecy. You keep saying that, it keeps happening. So you break that loop of that self-proclaimed prophecy which is keeping you in that shithole, and you install a new story.
Okay.
In literature we have a term called narrative. Narrative is something that you weave. It's based on stories, pictures, images, imagination, fantasy, reality, everything put in together, and a concoction happens, and that concoction is what you want to happen with your life. So you start a new story with a new narrative to go where you want to go. Nelson Mandela was in the prison for 27 years.
Yeah.
How could he survive that long if his story was a negative or a bad story? He must have told himself every day that the new day is coming. For 27 years. I don't know how many days they are. Mahatma Gandhi struggled for so long before people actually started to listen to him.
True that.
Martin Luther King, all the greatest people in the world, they've gone through this where they did not believe themselves. So nobody else would. So how do you make yourself believe yourself? That is the story of this book. From adversity, how do you travel to breakthroughs?
Right. Very interesting and very insightful, I must say. But I have a simple question. Like, I am finding it very interesting, and I have read your book and I've liked it. But to all the people who haven't read your book, and why should they read it? Like, why should they pick your book in comparison to the other books on the book stand? Like, what makes you think that, someone would just pick it and read it and like it? Like,
why pick a book instead of Netflix, right? Why pick any book anyway? I mean, books are not the best of. They're not going through the best of times.
I agree.
Why pick a book?
So you have all the more reasons to sell your book and to actually promote it to the younger audience, because I also agree that when we were growing up, books were the only friends that we had. But nowadays the kids are like drawn to television or the web streaming content and all that. So you have all the more reasons to sell it in a great way, that why should someone just pick it and read it?
I hope people listen to me when I'm talking about the book. Book is a very small part of the entire canon that I have inside.
Of course.
It's one of the smaller part.
Of course.
Put together in a fantastic form by HarperCollins.
Right.
Why should you read this book? Is to get an answer to the age-old question that how do I get out of that shithole? It's simple as that. The whole story I explained in the previous answer. How to move from adversity to breakthroughs using your own stories.
True.
How do you weave those stories? What do you tell yourself? Can you believe yourself? Can you instill belief in yourself? That is the question to ask. How to do it? Can you do it? Can it happen?
We all try every day.
So I give examples of people who have done it.
Yeah.
Normal people.
Yeah.
People who are now called stars or celebrities or successful people. Those people, they all started from that individual shithole we call adversity. So you have to read this book or any book that helps you to get there. One book is not going to suffice. Anything. If you want to travel, and everyone out there, everyone who's listening to this, I can guarantee you 99.99% of the people who are watching this video, they need to travel from that shithole out to the world of breakthroughs where miracles happen.
Alright. So all the people looking for breakthroughs should definitely read this book by Hersh Bhardwaj, A to B, Adversity to Breakthroughs. Okay, so moving to our next question, Hersh. When I read your book and when I started reading it, so in the first chapter, it talks about a story from Arabian Nights, and it talks about the story which was in the Arabian Nights by the name 1001 Nights, 1001 Nights. Okay, so that story in itself was very interesting, right? But we heard that story, perhaps watched it on television when we were growing up. So when I read it in the first chapter, I found it very interesting that it is actually about a king, a ruthless king, who execute every new bride every night, because his idea is that the princess or the bride should keep me entertained for just one night, and if she is not able to do it, I would just kill her in the morning, right? But then there's this one princess which has which has a mention in your book, and your story starts from that story. So please tell us about that, because I found that very interesting as a concept, to start a story from another story and then take it to a level of a complete holistic story, which is now called as a book because now it's published.
Fantastic.
So yeah,
you read the book, I guess, I presume.
Of course I've read it.
So yeah, it's about stories within stories. Everything that we talk to, everything we're talking to ourselves or each other, it's not one linear story. There
Yeah.
are stories that fragment, branch out. That is called the narrative. That the whole sum total of consolidated stories. So this Scheherazade was a princess who volunteers to get married to a ruthless king who's killing a queen every night. The condition was that the marrying queen will have to entertain him for the entire night. She only has one night. Right. Amidst all this princess volunteers on her own to get married and to try and stop these killings.
Yeah.
She has a game plan, and her game plan is the convincing, ever branching, ever forking out narrative. She wants to persuade and convince the king to believe in her narrative. Right? So I've been talking about believing in your own narrative. She has a game plan to make him believe in her narrative. But prior to that, she has to believe in her own narrative that she can
Of
do
course,
it.
yeah.
Right? So we start the story where how she persuades herself, how you believe in your own internal story. How can Mahatma Gandhi persuade himself to travel from South Africa to India while he was a successful practicing lawyer to come to India and become part of the freedom struggle? How can Nelson Mandela persuade himself to spend 77 years of his life in the prison and still come out alive with passion? So the first thing is you persuade yourself with your own inner story. Then you can work on other people.
True.
Now the metaphor of one night, you have only one night, is extremely important. So when we talk about all the youth that is stuck in this ever-growing facade of challenging competitive exams and getting great scores, and if you're not getting through to IITs, you kill yourself. There is a movie called Chichore that just happened. You must have watched it. Sounds like your favorite movie. There, I'm sorry if it's not. There, they showed the ugly face of this whole thing. Right. Young people are killing themselves because they're not achieving goals set by others.
Yeah.
So, how do you tackle that? How do you tackle failure? How do you tackle a place where you don't like, basically the shithole? You don't know what's going to happen tomorrow or day after tomorrow. It's black. It's a black wall. How do you tackle that? How do you move from one black hole to another black wall? So that's the extended metaphor of one night. One night signifies a finite amount of time that you have within which you can do something. That is all you have.
Okay.
It sounds like Eastern philosophy of here and now. But you start with where you are. And you have one night or one day or 10 days or 15 days or a month or 2 months. That is all you have. And you make a plan of action within that. And then you win the other night. So that Princess Scheherazade, her first goal was what? That she should be alive by the next morning. So she just wanted to survive one night. And then the next night. And then the next after. And so she continued to survive for 1001 nights. And she won it in the end. So it's one night at a time. Survive. When you're surviving enough days or nights, then you can sustain that success. It is success if you're alive and kicking and still doing what you want to do. You survive, then you sustain that pace, and then eventually you succeed. Most people fail in the first step because they're not able to weave those convincing narratives. Scheherazade did it for herself and for the king to entice him for so many nights, and she won it.
So, so you mean to say that one should take life step by step, or you're saying that set a major goal and then work towards it? Because is it like that, just taking one day at a time, or taking it step by step, or how do you what do you talk about in this book? Like how does one take their life?
It's interesting because you have to have a major goal without which you don't know which direction you're taking.
Of course, yeah.
So that goal is the wider metaphorical space playing field where you're playing, and one step at a time or one day at a night is your action plan.
Okay.
So you have to take some steps, you have to move forward. But the most important thing that is happening now is what you do in the finite amount of time you have. It could be one night, it could be 1 hour, it could be 1 year. So what do you do in that? You have, the most important thing is to survive that. If you don't survive it, there is no point. Nelson Mandela has to survive 27 years.
Yeah.
So he couldn't say, okay, I have 27 years, let's plan for it. He must have gone through it day by day, month by month, year by year. So wider or bigger the goal, smaller chunks you have to work with it. We're not made to think of very wide and bigger goals. So we have to, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Okay, so this was a real interesting example. But yeah, I definitely understand what you're saying, and I'm sure everybody else is also able to make through sense of what you're saying. So this confuses me because when I bought this book and when I read this book and when we talked about it from the very first time when this was published, so I thought that this was a business book because it has examples and instances of so many brands and so many successful people who are in itself a brand now if we talk about them. So I thought that it was a business book, and also it somewhere qualifies as a self-help book. What is your target audience? In your head, what were you thinking when you were writing about it? What is your target market? Who should pick it? Like people from the business or the entrepreneurs or the younger generation, the youth, like you said there, that adversity. I understand that adversity is like very common. Everybody faces it at one point of their life. In fact, every point of our lives, we are actually facing it all the time. So whom you're targeting?
Everyone.
That's a very vague and a very broad target segment.
That's what every author imagines and dreams about. Yes, it is a business book, and it's about business of life.
So Hersh, there's so I've read your book, and there's this right, so one of the chapters talks about Aladdin's lamp. We have all read that story, we all have heard that story, but how is that story relevant with your story?
As I said, the book is based on the premise of Arabian Nights.
Okay.
Right? Aladdin's story, Ali Baba and 40 Thieves, they're all part of those 1001 Nights.
Yeah.
We in India are familiar with only some of the stories. Right?
Okay.
Aladdin, Ali Baba, Alif Laila stories, very few. So Aladdin's lamp is a fantastic metaphor for a power that we have, but we don't know how to invoke it. So the real story is not about that he had a lamp and he used it and he became rich. The real story starts before that. So Aladdin was an idle, good for nothing, useless kid of 16, 17 years old. Right? So that's why I keep saying that this book actually touches everyone. I used to be like Aladdin when I was 15, 16. And a lot of people out there would agree with me that they are told that they are useless, good for nothing kind of people roaming around in the world with no purpose at all. So Aladdin was one such kid, no father, mother, very poor. He gets hold of a lamp and he does not know what it does. So just like we have all hidden powers and we don't know what to do it. For example, you might be a great interviewer and writer, and I keep telling you to write books, but you keep your hidden lamp hidden in your cupboard somewhere, gathering dust.
We are not confident about our own self sometimes.
So he accidentally, his mother rubs the lamp and the jinn appears.
Right.
Now imagine that God appears in front of you and asks you for wishes. If I ask you right away, imagine I'm God. What are your 3 wishes, Smriti? See, you'll have to think.
Yeah.
You have to think. You don't know what you want. That is the whole point. You don't know what you want. We don't know what we want. If even God appears today, I won't be able to answer the question. These are my 3 wishes. Okay, the maximum you can say is, I want 1 million rupees.
Yeah.
That is it. And if he really asks,
I would want 300 more wishes.
Exactly, but you only have 1 or 2 or 3. You have to be focused.
Yeah.
So he didn't know what to ask from the jinn that appeared. And so what they ended up doing, they ordered truckloads of food. Right? They were hungry, they were starving, that's fine. But for months and months and years, that's what they used the jinn for. Every time he would come and they'll just order food and clothes. And then one fine day he was having this good life, eating pretty good, junk food from the market and wearing all these fantastic clothes. He realized, okay, I don't have to call the jinn after all. I have so many, utensils, silverware that the jinn brought with the food. So he started selling those silverware to make money. Imagine, you have a lamp that can give you anything and you're surviving by selling the silverware. This is what we do with our talent. So our talent is the magical lamp that we have, and what we do, we use the talent for not even 1% of its worth. So that is the metaphor of the magic lamp of Aladdin's. So once he realizes his power, the power of the lamp, it's not the power of the lamp, it's his power inside.
Yeah.
Then he uses it to achieve miracles.
Yeah.
So the magical lamp is the hidden talent inside you. Rub it and use the jinn properly.
So we are talking about self-realization here, that one should have that self-realization of what they are capable of or what they can do in life, and what that they could achieve anything in their life if they want to. But first of all, they need to start from somewhere.
Read the book.
I have read it.
That's what
I've read it, but but for the people who haven't read it, we need to talk about it.
They should read the book. That's where the manual is, field manual is.
Right. So has this book helped you in the process of transformation when you were writing it?
Absolutely.
Okay.
This is based on what I understood by telling myself stories that could help me and pull out of my shithole. And then I needed to make it interesting, relevant, referenced, so that more wider people will understand it. So it takes references and examples from around the world, from all kinds of people, to make it more relatable. So yes, I have read the book. This is what I have practiced, and I practice every day to get out, continuously get out. Shithole is something that always drags you back. It will always keep you dragging back. You have to keep pulling you out until you are far, far away, which I am not yet.
So can I ask you a question, if you like? Obviously, you'll allow us. So how long did you take to write this book? Like,
very nice.
For how long?
Years.
You took 5 years to write.
It took 5 years from conception to publishing.
Wonderful. So all right. So I think we are through with the questions. We still have so many questions, but we are running out of time, and you have somewhere else to go as well. So it was really nice meeting you and having a discussion about your book. So I'm happy that it's selling really well, and all the best for your next book. When is it coming, if any one of us can?
5 years.
Another 5 years. I should have guessed it. All right. Thank you, Hersh. Thank you so much for your time. And yeah.